podcast where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm CJ, and I'm joined once again by Alli. Alli, how are you doing on this fine Friday evening?
Hi, CJ. I am really glad that it's Friday. How are you?
I am also glad that it's Friday, and I am doing great. I'm ready for the weekend.
Yep. Are you doing anything fun this weekend? Any Disney trips?
Tomorrow, we're supposed to be going to Epcot.
Okay.
Not sure how long we'll be there because it's supposed to rain. But other than that, I think we're just kind of hanging around at home.
Nice, nice. I
Yeah.
too will be hanging around at home, but I'm having some friends over tomorrow and we're going to play some games. And then on Sunday, I'm having some virtual games with friends online. So,
Cool.
yeah.
Sounds fun. Well,
Yeah.
today this is like part 3 of the never-ending trip report. But this is the final iteration of this season's trip reports, I think.
Oh, Lord, it better be.
Well, if it isn't, that means we have surprise trips, and that's a lot of fun. So,
Yeah.
we'll see what
Well,
happens.
I still need to go to SeaWorld San Antonio one more time.
Okay.
So maybe if I do that, we can do a San Antonio trip report and I can tell you all about how terrible it is and how much I don't like that park.
All right. Well, stay tuned for that. But today
Possibly.
we're going to talk about two different things today if we have time, which I think we will, but we're going to
I
start
think we
with
will.
your visit to Disneyland.
Yeah, I went to Disneyland. It was fun.
So, when did you go? We're recording this April 28th, by the way. It has been like almost 3 weeks since we've recorded. So,
Yeah.
when did you take this trip to Disneyland?
I went to Disneyland on Thursday, March 9th.
Wow, so it's been like 7 weeks.
Yeah, it's been like almost 2 full months. Yeah.
Yes. And who did you go with?
It was me and it was my mother-in-law.
Cool. And what ticket type did you use? And did you purchase Genie Plus?
We each had 1 day, 1 park tickets, and we did purchase Genie Plus.
Okay. And did you do any single rider lines?
I don't think so. No, we
Okay.
we went on everything together, so
Cool. And this was your first time back to Disneyland since 2019, like the summer of 2019.
that's
Uh,
correct.
when when was your mother-in-law's like most recent trip besides this one?
So she is a Southern California resident. Her and my sister-in-law got the Southern California 3 day tickets. So they
Okay.
had been like right a couple weeks before I showed up. And we're planning going like the week after I was there too.
Okay.
So
Okay. So before that 3-day ticket, do you know the last time she was there?
I don't know the last time she was there before that.
Okay. No worries. Did you find Genie Plus useful?
At times.
Okay.
So the later it got in the day and the more crowded it got, the more useful it became.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting. Do you think you would get Genie Plus again?
As a tourist, yes. If I was a Southern California resident still, no.
Okay, that makes sense. We're going to talk some more about the rides you did, and we'll kind of talk about Genie Plus within that. So why don't you go over kind of like what you did during the day?
Yeah, so our day started out with I managed to snag a last minute reservation at Oga's. So we walked in and had our 8:20 reservation at Oga's Cantina.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah, it was lovely. I got Java Juice, which I think is my favorite drink there now. And
All right.
it's from the non-alcoholic menu because I don't drink. So it's an appropriate drink for 8:20 in the morning.
Yes, it
And
is.
Jody got, I believe, the Hyperdrive Punch It, which is also on the non-alcoholic menu.
Okay.
I know they have a lot of really good alcoholic drinks, so I've been told, but their non-alcoholic stuff is also really, really good. Highly recommend.
On the alcoholic side for our listeners, I recommend Jet Juice, small but mighty. And yeah, that's a very powerful drink there. And Fuzzy Tauntaun, which is just a lot of fun because it makes your
Yeah.
mouth do strange things.
Yeah, don't they tell you to not let the foam touch your nose?
Yeah, I think they tell you like not to breathe it in.
Yeah.
It's
So
good
it's
though. I like
dangerous.
that. I like that. I enjoy it. It's fun.
All
Okay.
right.
So after Oga's.
After Oga's, we did Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and we used the lightning lane for this, so we absolutely did not need to.
Okay.
I was a pilot, and Jody was not because motion sickness.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, there was some rearranging of people because of the party that we were with. There was a little girl who was scared, and she had to be. There was like placement of, okay, you have to have a parent either next to you or like in front of you or
Yeah.
something like that.
Right.
So we had to. There was some last minute rearranging of where everybody was seated.
Yes,
So.
I understand that one. So after Smuggler's Run, where did you go next?
Next, we went to Rise of the Resistance.
Did you?
And
That's on individual lightning lane over there, right?
yes, we did standby for that.
How bad was the standby?
Not bad at all. It was actually significantly shorter than the posted wait time. The posted wait time was, I don't remember what it exactly was, but it was like 50 minutes to an hour range. And we were off the ride in like 40.
Okay, that's not bad considering like the whole experience is like 15 to 20 minutes. So, okay, cool.
Yeah. And this was still very early in the morning.
Right. Okay, after Rise of the Resistance, what was next?
Next, we went to Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Jody
Okay,
had
was
not
that
been on
one
that before.
right? Was that one on individual lightning lane and standby?
Yes.
Okay, and you guys did standby.
We did standby. Yes.
And how was the wait for that one? I'm curious since it was like pretty new when you went there.
Yes. Toontown was not fully reopened when I was there. It was supposed to be,
okay.
but they had to delay the reopening because, praise the Lord, Southern California got rain finally. So I think it was posted at like 40 minutes, and we waited less than that.
Okay, cool. Next, after that?
After that, we did It's a Small World, followed by Peter Pan, Snow White, Pinocchio, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, which that one had actually, we intended to do that earlier, I think, but it went down. And by the time we got off Pinocchio, it was just back up. So we walked onto it.
Nice.
Then we went on Alice in Wonderland. While we were in queue for Alice in Wonderland, I booked our next Genie Plus for the Matterhorn.
Cool.
And that was ready as soon as we got off of Alice in Wonderland.
Nice. Love when that happens. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
So then it looks like you guys had lunch.
Yes, so we went on the Matterhorn, and while we were in queue for the Matterhorn, I introduced my mother-in-law to the wonders of mobile order.
Nice.
So we placed our mobile order for Pizza Planet in the queue for the Matterhorn, rode the Matterhorn, got off, went to Pizza Planet, and our stuff was ready to pick up.
Perfect. And what did you have for lunch there? That was not one of my normal, like, I gotta eat here places. I very rarely ate there when we lived there. So I'm curious what you got and how it was.
That was me and my husband, when we would go on dates there, we would always go to Pizza Planet, and we would always get the chicken fusilli. It's so good. We both got my mother-in-law and I both got the chicken fusilli. Chicken pasta and a cream sauce with fresh basil on top.
You know, I do remember having that, but I avoided it a lot because the pizza wasn't good at Pizza Planet. So I just didn't go there that often.
Ironic that the pizza was bad at Pizza Planet, but whatever.
I know.
The pasta is truly fantastic. Yes. I get it every time I can.
Cool. So after lunch, where did you head off to?
I believe during lunch, I booked our lightning lane for Space Mountain. So while we were waiting for that to be ready, and while we were letting that pasta settle down, we rode Buzz Lightyear and then Autopia, both standby. And then we had like 5-10 minutes to dawdle before Space Mountain was ready for us.
Cool. Good timing again.
Yes. This was the day of good timing. It was incredible.
Nice.
Yeah. From there, we started to head back over to the other side of the park. And we stopped for a churro in front of the castle.
Perfect. I'm so jealous.
It was A really good churro. It was absolutely worth it.
Good. Good to hear. Glad to hear it.
From there, we lightning laned Haunted Mansion, followed by Big Thunder.
Hmm.
Then we rode Winnie the Pooh, and we had a lightning lane for Splash Mountain. And this was at about 4:30. And if we hadn't gotten the lightning lane then, we would not have gone on Splash Mountain because the sun was going down and it was getting
Oh,
cold.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm
It was
glad you
like,
went on it though, because now we have a closing date and it closes in about a month. So you got your last splash.
yeah, about a month from time of recording. By the time this is released, it'll have about 2 weeks left.
Yep.
Yeah, so May 31st or end of May.
Hmm.
So,
So
womp
after
womp.
Splash, you did a few more things, it looks like?
Yes. We went on Pirates of the Caribbean. We wanted to go on the Jungle Cruise, but it went down right as we were about to get in line.
Oh
So we went
no.
on the Tiki Room instead.
Yay.
I love the Tiki Room. And then by the time we got out of the Tiki Room, Jungle Cruise was back up.
Cool.
So again, the day of perfect timing just
Yeah. Sometimes it goes like that, and that's a really
yeah.
nice, that's convenient.
Yeah.
And then you finished your day with?
We went to the castle, got some pictures, and then we walked back towards Fantasyland. We took the monorail path. Stopped at a popcorn cart, got some popcorn and a souvenir popcorn bucket.
Oh, cool.
It's the silver Cinderella carriage one that I
Oh,
texted Mom, don't buy this for me.
I was gonna send that to you and ask you if you wanted it.
Yeah, don't buy it for me. I have it.
Cool.
Yeah. From there, we kept going back, and we got on the Disneyland Railroad at the Toontown station and rode around to Main Street Station, where we disembarked, exited the park, and made a beeline for Earl of Sandwich.
Nice. So I'm going through my head on the rides, and
Mm-hmm.
you did everything in New Orleans Square and Critter Country. I mean, you didn't do the rafts to Tom Sawyer Island, but
No.
or the canoes, but meh.
I don't know that
You
the canoes
did.
were actually open, so.
Yeah, they're not always open. You did everything in Frontierland and Galaxy's Edge. You did the one Toontown ride that was available to you. In Tomorrowland, you only skipped Star Tours and the submarines.
Mm-hmm.
And in Fantasyland, you only skipped Casey Jr. and Storybook Land canal boats and Dumbo and the carousel.
And the Sleeping Beauty Castle walkthrough, which I wanted
And
to
teacups.
do, we just didn't. Yeah, and the teacups.
Yeah.
I wanted to do the castle walkthrough. That's the only thing that was on my list that was open that we did not get to go through.
Gotcha. So with the exception of Fantasyland, it seems like you did pretty much everything.
Yes, and this was a day that the park closed early for a special event. If we had a few more hours in the park, we could have done everything. But because the park closed at 8, we only had 8 to 8 to get it all done. So I'm pretty proud of what we accomplished in 12 hours.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you think having Genie Plus made a difference in being able to do everything that you did?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Booking the Matterhorn and then being able immediately to go on it. And then same with Space Mountain. We booked Space Mountain and then rode 2 rides and got on Space Mountain. So basically the time that we would have spent in line for Space Mountain, because that was in the afternoon. That's not going to be a short wait. We rode two rides instead of waiting in line. And then when we scanned in to Space Mountain, I booked our next lightning lane for Haunted Mansion, which was our next ride. I don't know if it's that I'm really good at the system or if the system really worked.
Yeah, I've heard from people who have used it at Disney World and Disneyland that it works better at Disneyland. I don't know why that is. Do you have any thoughts on which one works better? Because you've used it at Disneyland and you've used it at Magic Kingdom. Have you used it at the other parks?
Yeah, when Kirsten and I went out, we had it for all the parks.
Okay.
I think part of what makes it better at Disneyland is the fact that it actually, you can't book anything Lightning Lane. There's a limited number of rides that you can book Lightning Lane for, versus at Magic Kingdom, you can book anything with your Lightning Lane. Literally anything.
Mm.
And I think that causes a lot of bloat that you don't get at Disneyland.
Okay. I can see that being true. I also, I don't have any numbers to back this up, but I would imagine that there's less people buying it at Disneyland because of, most people there being locals. So it's like, it doesn't matter that they have fewer rides on the Genie Plus system. There's just less people using it overall. And I wonder what would happen at a park like Magic Kingdom where like 90% of the rides are on it. What if they cut that down to like 20% of the rides being on it? Would they still sell the same numbers of Genie Plus that they do now, or would they have to raise the price so that less people buy it?
I'm sorry, if there were fewer rides on Genie Plus at Magic Kingdom and it cost more, I would be annoyed. I would not buy it because it's like I'm paying more and I'm getting less. Like, you should drop the price if you're offering less.
Right. I'm just thinking that they would sell out really, they would have to lower capacity for the amount of people buying it because less rides would be on it. So in order to sell to a fewer amount of people, everybody's going to want it at a low price point. So they'd have to raise prices because, I don't know. Maybe what I'm saying doesn't make sense. It made sense in my head, but I don't know what Magic Kingdom's solution is because I have heard from multiple people it just doesn't work out very well there.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe there's just because there's so many people using it, there's so much competition for the rides, and the good rides go first, and then it's harder to get things. I don't know.
Yeah, I booked our Space Mountain Fast Pass at noon.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to get that at noon at Magic Kingdom.
No, I feel like it would be like 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. It would be late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ours was for 2:30.
All right, let's talk about food. So you ate at Pizza Planet, Earl of Sandwich. You have churro and popcorn. Did you eat anything else?
I don't think so. I brought a snack bar with me, but that's
okay.
That's it.
Okay, I was just curious. Maybe you got a Dole Whip or some special treat or something.
No, the churro was the special treat.
Okay, fair. So what was your favorite part of the day? Your favorite thing that you did, your favorite ride, or just favorite, I don't know, your favorite thing?
Back to food, Ogas. But we talked about that
you did Ogas too.
Favorite thing. I really liked being back there. You mentioned it had been 3.5 years since I'd been to Disneyland, thereabouts. So, walking in the park and I'm like, I'm not crying. Because it was just like being at home again.
Yeah.
So that was really special.
Yeah. I think the atmosphere there is different than at Disney World.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally different vibe. Disneyland, it feels a lot more relaxed. It's a lot more chill. Everybody's just kind of there to be, versus at Magic Kingdom, it feels like you're surrounded by people who are there on their once in a lifetime trip and it's go, and you have to it's very militant, and yeah. Totally
That's a good way to explain it. Yeah, I get the checklist feeling at Disney World versus Disneyland is we're here just to be here and hang out and see what we do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I did have a checklist.
Well, yeah. What was your least favorite part of the day, or a bad experience or something that just didn't sit right with you?
Got really wet on Splash Mountain. The thing that I didn't like about Splash Mountain, one, we both got really wet. Two, those seats are way more uncomfortable than I remember. And actually, after the second hill, now I'm not an old lady. I would just like to clear that up now before I say this. I am not an old lady. But after the second hill, my hip totally seized up. I was in so much pain. And I'm trying to shift in this seat. And obviously I can't
there's no shifting.
Stand up. But
there's no shifting.
So yeah, okay. I'm just trying to find a position that is not excruciating hip pain.
Yes. So for people who have not been on the Disneyland Splash Mountain, the way you sit is like you straddle the seat, basically. It's
Yeah.
not a traditional seat where you could like put a leg up or like cross your legs or anything. You just can't do
Yeah.
that. You straddle the seat, and the handlebars are on either side of you, like underneath the edge of the log, basically.
Yeah.
And the
You're and
backrest is extremely narrow.
yeah. Your
Yeah,
knees are hugging the backrest of the person in front of you.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so maybe in our old age, that's just not a fun ride to go on.
Yeah. What was really funny was that there was a little girl, oh, little, she was like 10 to 12 at most, probably 8 to 12. Anyways, after the final drop, she turns around and she tells her mom, "The only reason I'm so wet is because of my tears."
Oh my. That is so
It was
funny.
the funniest thing. Oh, poor girl. But
Oh dear. Well, okay, so it's been like 3.5 years since you've been, so I want to ask some like before and after questions. What do you think is the biggest difference between pre-COVID Disneyland and post-COVID? Like any significant change that you noticed?
honestly, obviously Genie Plus and Lightning Lane, just
Right.
that whole
That's kind of a
switch
given.
is big. Um,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's it's been enough time that the like COVID restrictions aren't really having that much of an impact anymore. It felt like it felt like 2019, honestly.
Okay.
If I had done
Interesting.
this trip 2 years ago in 2021, I'm sure it would have been totally different.
Yeah.
But because it's been long enough and everybody's kind of a lot more relaxed than they were 2 years ago, it just didn't feel like there was that much of a difference, to be honest.
Okay. This is a random question I'm going to ask you because I
Okay.
noticed it when we went there. You know how we always saw like the same cast members and sometimes the same guests? Did you see any of the regulars that we used to see when we went all the time?
I think I saw somebody that we used to see, a guest that we used to see, but I could not confirm because he was not performing his regular
Uh,
antic. Yeah.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the guy who would ride Big Thunder and he would clap like rhythmically. I
Yeah, so
think I
that
saw him in
you know,
Fantasyland.
you know the story on that guy, right?
I don't know the story on that guy.
Oh, his name is Peter too, I believe, and he went to Disneyland every single day prior to COVID. Every day.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's why he would do his like clapping thing. Like the cast members would be like, "Oh, Peter's here," like he's back again. So yeah, I think OC Register maybe did an article on him a few years ago. I'm not 100% sure. Somebody wrote an article about him. But anyways, um, the reason why I asked that is because when we went back in 2022 in the summer, when we walked under the train station on Main Street and looked to the right at that first little shop where all the artwork is, I saw a cast member standing out there, and I remembered him from before the parks closed. I was like, oh, I recognize that guy. And actually, in the morning on the way in, walking through downtown Disney, I saw guests that I recognized. And I remember them from when I worked at the Grand Californian. I think they're DVC. They would stay there a lot. But then I also saw them as a guest in the park too. I was like, oh, that's them. So it was kind of cool to see familiar faces. I'm sure they don't remember me, but I remember them. And I feel like at Walt Disney World, because things change so much with the guests that are coming here, and even with like the college program being so big here, you get a
Right.
revolving door of workers. You don't necessarily see the same people all the time. Although, ironically, this is funny. When Mom and I did the Keys to the Kingdom tour, we left the park on a ferry boat, and we saw a couple probably in their late 40s, early 50s with two adult sons that had special needs, and they stood out to me. I remembered them. A couple weeks later, Violet and I are at the park, and we leave around lunchtime, and lo and behold, guess who's on the ferry boat with us? That exact same family on the way back to the parking lot. And the cast members there talked to them and said, I see you guys quite a bit. Like, what's your story? Do you live locally? They live in New York. They come down every like 3 to 4 weeks, and they stay for a week, and they go back to New York.
What a life.
I know.
Spending
Yeah,
1/12 of your no, that's not that math isn't right.
like a quarter of your year,
Yeah,
right?
spending a quarter of your year at Disneyland or Disney World.
Yeah. It was just
That
funny.
someday I hope to have that kind of money.
Yes, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So updates to any rides since you've last been, like anything new you noticed about the rides?
I'd like to take a few steps back. So at the end of the night, the park closed at 8. So you had a bunch of people who were going over to California Adventure because that closed later.
Hmm.
We did not have park hopper tickets, so we ate our dinner and we went to go get in line to go back to the Toy Story lot. CJ, I have never seen the line for the Toy Story bus that long. It was absolutely ridiculous. The entire right side was switchbacked and it came around the hairpin to like starting to go to where the other loading zones are on the left side.
I've seen that before at closing. It was not fun.
It was absolutely ridiculous. We walked.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like you either stand here and wait or you just walk. And maybe
Yeah.
walking will be faster, hopefully.
Yeah, when we were walking past the there was a cast member who was saying if you get in line now, it's going to be a 40-minute wait for a bus.
Oh,
So we
gosh.
walked, and then I checked my watch. I just happened to check my watch going down the freeway, and I went, "Oh, we should be getting on the bus now." And we're already like down past the Discovery Science Center
Oh,
on the
geez.
freeway.
Okay.
So
Yeah, yeah. Good call
yeah,
to walk. Good call.
yes.
So, anyways, any updates to the rides since you've last been to Disneyland?
Well, last time I was there, Rise of the Resistance was not open.
Okay,
So
yeah, that's a big update.
yeah, that was a very large update. I'm trying to think.
I have some suggestions for you.
Okay.
Snow White was completely
Oh yeah,
redone.
Snow White was completely redone. I like it better now.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I like both versions. I don't really have one that I like more than the other.
The iconic screaming is gone.
I know. Runaway Railway was also new.
Yeah. Do we have an episode on that? Are we
We
gonna do
don't
an
have
episode
it.
on that?
Probably we will at some point. We don't have it scheduled this season's e-tickets. I don't think I'd count that as an e-ticket attraction.
Okay. Even though it's new. Well, I was just gonna say I know which coast wins the Runaway Railway showdown for me.
Well, hold it. Don't go there yet, because we will
Okay.
probably get to it. But that was your mother-in-law's first time on that ride, so what did she think?
She thought it was cute.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely a good ride.
I think that was also her first experience with like a trackless ride.
Oh,
So yeah, that yeah, she liked it.
did she know going in that it was going to be trackless?
I don't think so. I don't think she knew anything about it. Other than I
Gotcha.
said, we gotta go on it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Pirates of the Caribbean had a couple minor updates. I'm wondering if you picked up on
Oh
that.
yeah. Sorry, it's been so long.
No, it's okay.
So I don't remember if that new animatronic was there the last time I went there. But
Can you
that was
specify
really
which one?
cool.
Which
Um,
one?
in the tunnel that no longer has the Davy Jones waterfall. There's
Hallelujah.
yeah. I love that they went back to the original narration.
Yes.
That's so nice. It's so nice. And as an adult, like now that I'm actually like paying attention and hearing it, like yeah, it really does progress the story, and I like that.
Hmm. And
Um,
it's a really good script too. It's just really good
yeah,
storytelling. Yeah.
yes, it is. Um, so yeah, the one in that tunnel on the left side.
Yeah, it's like a little squid or octopus or something.
Yeah, and it like
Yeah.
goes from one state to another.
Yes. I
Yeah,
really enjoy that. It's cool.
yeah, that's really cool.
So I have just a couple more questions. Is there anything in particular that was like a wow moment or something that like stood out to you when you were there?
Um, well, that animatronic at Pirates of the Caribbean, I think I like actually said, "Oh, that's so cool!" Like as we were going past it. One thing that was really cool was getting some pictures in front of the Millennium Falcon that early in the morning, where there was nobody in the park.
Yes.
There was nobody
Yes.
behind us. Like, I didn't have to like go in and edit anybody out of those pictures.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. So the question we always ask is, what's something Disneyland is doing right that Disney World could improve upon? And then vice versa.
Genie Plus worked better there. And I can't pinpoint why, but the fact that I could get e-ticket attractions all day.
Yeah.
So it obviously something is right at Disneyland that is not right at Disney World in regards to Genie Plus and the e-tickets.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I mean. Like, maybe they're overselling Genie Plus in Disney World. Like, they have so many rides on Genie Plus, and yet it's still hard to get the good ones. So that tells me that maybe they're overselling it.
Yeah. Could be.
So on the flip side, something Walt Disney World's doing right that Disneyland could improve upon.
I'm also going to answer the previous question again and say the Disneyland churros are way better.
Oh yeah. That's no surprise. No joke. No surprise there. It's good.
So in terms of things that Walt Disney World is doing better, having more photographers in the high popularity areas, such as in front of the castle.
Yes. I noticed this too on our trip in the summer. That discouraged us from buying Genie Plus. What happened? I don't know if you remember, the first day we were there, we were going to buy Genie Plus, one of us, so we could get PhotoPass downloads. Mm-hmm. Well, their system was down. Nobody could buy Genie Plus. It was a whole mess. And then I walked around and realized there's not that many photographers. I don't want to buy Genie Plus. So we didn't. Yeah. So any other thoughts on your Disneyland trip before our final question?
Well, I wasn't done answering the previous question.
Sorry.
So both Disney parks are very good at flowing the crowds where they need them to go. But I do think that Disney World does it a little bit better just because they have more space. And I think, that's just the difference between 1955 and 1971. 1971, They knew better. So if there was more space, I think they would be a level playing field.
That makes sense. I get that. Yeah. Okay. Any final thoughts on your Disneyland trip?
10 out of 10 would Disneyland again.
When do you plan to go back?
Probably November of this year.
Cool.
I have mentioned
Christmas.
To you more than once.
Christmas.
Yes, I get Christmas at the parks if we do that.
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
That's why I'm
so now you have to. Now you have to.
So the thing is, my husband's cousin is getting married the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Perfect.
So we're gonna be there. We haven't booked our flights or anything yet, but we're planning on being there obviously a couple days before the wedding, and then we may as well just stay through Thanksgiving. So we are definitely gonna do both parks in November.
Oh, good. Both parks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because there's stuff at California Adventure. I have not seen any of Adventure's campus. So
yeah, that's true. You haven't.
Yeah.
I'm curious. I don't remember seeing pictures of how they decorated for the holidays, if they do decorate for the holidays, but I know like Cars Land has great decorations.
Oh, yeah.
Buena Vista Street is really well decorated, so you'll have a good time. And it'll be Festival of the Holidays too, so you can like eat around the world, or eat around California Adventure.
Eat around California. And Haunted Mansion Holiday.
And Small World Holiday, and you get the snowfall on Main Street and the Christmas fireworks, which is the best fireworks show. Besides Remember Dreams Come True. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's a good call. Just make sure, double check. They might do some sort of weird after hours party, so double check what days you go.
Yeah, we will.
Cool. Well, I think that wraps it up for the Disneyland portion of this episode. We have a brief trip report. Yeah. Alli, you want to kick this one off?
I mean, I just did a whole bunch of talking. I was going to ask you, CJ, what did we do on Saturday?
6 days ago, April 22nd, it was a Saturday, we did MouseAdventure.
MouseAdventure? That sounds cool. I'll take 12 of them. What's MouseAdventure, CJ?
So, MouseAdventure is a puzzle solving quest, I Spies, trivia, information gathering, and then doing something with the information and answering a question, scavenger hunt game that takes place in the parks.
Mm-hmm. It does.
Yes. It's a live game, although they do have vacation packets, so if you want to try it later or challenge your friends, you can purchase vacation packets and do it on your own, but this was a live game.
Wow, CJ, I've never heard of this before. Is this something that Disney does?
No, this is put on by a group called Third Gate Games, and it's been going on for quite some time. I think they said their first event was 1999.
Yeah, I know when I was listening to the pregame talk, I wrote down that was the 51st MouseAdventure event that we did on Saturday.
Yes, so this event we did was the 51st event, and typically I'm going to talk pre-COVID times. They did one in the spring, one in the fall at each coast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then COVID hit, and obviously you can't go into the parks during COVID. So they started these in a box games, which take place virtually. They send you everything you need in a box, and you hop on Zoom with your teammates or get together in person. You solve the puzzles, enter your answer online. If you're correct, you start the next quest.
Oh, you said something about doing stuff online. Can I use my phone during the game in the park to look up the answer to trivia?
So here's the thing. The game consists of trivia, I Spy, and quests. And you can't use any outside sources. You can't use your phone. You can't use, if you happen to bring books, you can't use books to help you.
Leave those in the car.
Yes, and you can't get help from cast members or other teams.
Or day guests.
Yeah, or random guests, yeah.
The only thing you can have that they don't give you is a park map. So you can pick up a park map on the day you get there and use that as needed. Other than that, you better bring scratch paper, pens, pencils, highlighters, erasers,
ruler.
Ruler, yes.
Or some sort of straight edge, yeah.
Yeah. Clipboards. Clipboards are important.
Especially the clipboards with storage.
Yes, those are game changers.
Good. Yes.
If there's a chance of rain, you want to bring sheet protectors and expo markers.
Mm-hmm. And ponchos, Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
And your snacks. If you're really competitive, bring your own food so you don't have to stop for a meal.
Yeah. Anything else you need for the game, they will give you. So, for instance,
this last game, they gave us a a map of Caribbean Beach Resort.
Mm-hmm. And for some of the in-a-box games, they sent us a protractor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because not everybody has one just lying around.
No, I ended up Googling protractor and printing one out and cutting it out and using that because I don't have a protractor. And the three of you were together in person and I was not. And I was the one who figured out how to solve that quest. And I didn't have a protractor. So thanks, internet.
Yep. So you and I first started playing this game in fall of 2007. They did an event called Photo Adventure where they gave everybody a memory card and you just had to bring your digital camera basically and you had to take pictures of specific things in Disneyland. Now that was 2007 and we've played pretty much all the games at Disneyland since then. Our team is called, it's you and me, CJ and Alli, and it's our parents, our mom and dad. And our team is called Goof There It Is, because usually, Goof There It Is. That's what we're going for. And we became a Masters team, which means we've won first place 3 times. And Masters teams play for free, but they just play for fun. You can't win any prizes. So we played one, and usually what they do is they'll have a basic division, advanced division. Sometimes if there's enough family teams, they'll do a family division or like a new team division. And then there's a Masters division if they have Masters teams playing. And Masters teams, like I said, don't win anything, but it kind of serves as a benchmark for other teams. Like, oh, the Masters team scored this many points or whatever. So we played one game as a Masters team after we became Masters, and then you moved to Texas, and the rest of us started volunteering on game day and before game day, actually.
What happened before I moved to Texas was that my pass expired and I did not get a new one because Mom and Dad said, "You're married now. You have to buy your own pass." And I said, "Well, I can't afford that. Now I have a mortgage." So I didn't have a pass. So you guys volunteered and I stayed home and tried not to think about MouseAdventure. And then I moved to Texas.
Right. So when we volunteered, we would beta test on game day. So we would go through every quest. We would do things like look for typos and any kind of errors that we saw. But they also wanted us to run the quest through without taking any shortcuts. And I don't want to make it sound like we're cheating, but when you get to a point where you have enough information to kind of like force your way through the quest without having to collect every single bit of information. And that's usually how we solve it. We'll answer all but like 2 or 3 questions that are required to get the final question, and then we'll kind of piece it together. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So anyways, when we beta tested, they wanted us to not do that and actually get every single piece of information so that we could let them know, hey, I think teams are going to have a hard time with this. Maybe you should rework this. Da, da, da. And then on game day, when we volunteered, they'd have us looking for cheaters or running specific station. There was one where teams had to bob for apples. So we would like monitor that station.
What? I didn't know about that quest.
Well, it wasn't really like with your mouth bobbing, and it wasn't real apples. It was like plastic apples that you like ripped open to try to get something. There's another one where teams had to color something at a station, and so I was sitting there like with the expo markers and the laminated paper that they could color on. So, anyways, Alli, why don't you talk a little bit about this event, like the theme and where it was at and everything?
So this was the first MouseAdventure that they held since COVID. So the title of this event was MouseAdventure Back to the Park. And the overarching theme was Back to the Future. So all of the quest titles had something to do with Back to the Future. So one of the quest names was Enchantment Under the Sea. And there was another one where it's I'll take a Pepsi free. Jailbird Joey, things like that. And I watched Back to the Future like 3 days before I flew out to Florida for this, so I was like, oh, I recognize all of these references. And this took place, the morning event took place at Riviera Resort, Caribbean Beach Resort, and Hollywood Studios, with a detour to Pop Century and the Epcot entrance. From the Skyliner. So anywhere you can get on the Skyliner in that little triangle. Are there other Skyliner lines or is that it?
That's it.
Anywhere you can get on the Skyliner was fair game.
Yes. And then the second half of the day was purely in Hollywood Studios.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to give like a sample quest so our audience kind of understands what we're talking about. Because, I touched on like, we have just enough information to solve quests without having to get everything. So let's talk about the Skyliner quest, the one that we screwed up. And this is an example of why you should, especially if you're a new team, you should check your work and also try to get all the information if you can. If you get to a point where you're just like, I can't do this, it's okay. Yeah. So the Skyliner quest.
I just want to say, I know exactly where, why, and how I messed up.
So I'll speak to the first part of this quest here. So the first thing we had to do was at the Skyliner hub station, which is at like the Caribbean Resort. That's like the big transfer spot. There's all these travel posters for like Alli, Disney Cruise Line, Adventures by Disney, like all these different things. So we had pictures of every single poster, but they had erased a word. So we had to go around and look at all the posters to fill in the missing word.
Occasionally, there were 2 words erased, such as the Alps.
Yes. So then, Alli, what was the next part of that?
So we gathered those words and we filled them in on this grid. So there were 3 lines. The top line was the letters that you just filled in from the posters. The middle line was like a lightning bolt symbol or like the flux capacitor symbol. It was just all a whole bunch of symbols, some of them with minus signs. And then the third row was blank. So, okay, we're doing math, but we don't have the numbers. So what we had to do was go to the entrance to Hollywood Studios and the entrance to Epcot and find the payphones, because those are still around. The payphones had 4-digit codes on them.
4-digit extensions, yeah.
Yeah, 4-digit extensions that you could dial for like guest services or something. And we had to plug those into a grid, use those to determine what the numbers were. And even then, there were still a couple of math problems that you had to do using those symbols to get the last, like 3 symbols to correlate to numbers.
So those extension numbers correlated to the symbols that were in the grid, basically.
Yeah. So, for instance, lightning bolt was 8.
Yeah. Or like guitar was 5 or something like that.
Yeah.
So then after you correlated the digits from the extensions to the symbols, you said there were 3 additional math problems there. It was like guitar plus lightning bolt equals this. So that gave you another symbol number to work with. So explain the grid. So you've got the letters that you filled in from the posters on top. Mm-hmm. And then your middle line is the symbols. And then the bottom part is blank. So how did you fill in those blanks?
So you take the letter in the top line, and underneath it, it says lightning bolt. So we're saying lightning bolt is 8. So I need to count 8 letters up from what that top letter is to determine my bottom letter.
Yeah. So if the first one, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, so like if the first letter was T, lightning bolt, you would do T, go forward 8 letters.
Mm-hmm.
So U, V, W, X, Y, Z, A, B. So B would be the letter for that one. So we decoded, so our path was Skyliner Station at Caribbean Beach, and then we went over to Riviera to do 2 quests there. And then we went all the way down to Epcot to get the extensions, then back to Hollywood Studios to get those extensions. And then on the Skyliner route from Hollywood Studios to Caribbean Beach, which is that's the shortest route, I think. You were frantically working on transposing all those letters and numbers.
Doing all the number math. So basically what I was doing was I was figuring out, okay, this symbol means this. So I was telling Dad, A5. And Dad had the piece of paper with the alphabet that I wrote the alphabet on a piece of paper to make it easier. So he would go A5 and then give me what it was. Or I would go X minus 7. And he would do the math and give me what it was.
Yeah. And so while you two were doing that, I was kind of looking over your shoulder, seeing if I could make sense of anything. And also finishing up trivia with Mom, because for trivia, you have to like bubble in a Scantron. So we were finishing that. And by the time we got off the Skyliner, we knew that whatever the grid revealed would be our question that we had to answer. And we didn't know where it was going to send us. So we really wanted to finish by the time we were at the Skyliner station. And we got the message, and it was something like, take a stroll around Hourglass Lake. Hourglass Lake is the lake between Art of Animation and Pop Century. So we knew we needed to get on the Skyliner. So I think you finished up mostly decoding it on that second Skyliner ride because we knew where we were going. And then it said, like, find the 8th word on the 19 something 5 sign.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we made our mistake.
Yes. And I know exactly how I made the mistake. So the correct answer was 1955. I said it's 1995. And the reason that I did that is because the end of the line is not always the end of the word. So the line that had 19 on it ended with 90, no N. So the next line started with the N
And
to end the word 19.
then we had a couple blanks.
Yeah.
We had a couple blanks and then TY.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my brain said, this is a new word. It's an N that ends in a TY. This is 90. Not recognizing this is the end of
this
19.
N is the right. Yeah. And I looked at it and I said the same thing, and we both said 1995. And we were both wrong. So we get off at the Skyliner station, and nobody's really sure. I mean, we know the signs are around there somewhere, but it's like a mile lap basically. And by the way, we've only got like 25-30 minutes to finish this quest and return everything to Caribbean Beach Resort, like down at the quick service restaurant by the pool. So it's not like right there off the Skyliner. We gotta walk. And our mom was in an ECV, so every time we're loading the Skyliner and unloading, it takes a while.
Yep.
So we start walking towards Art of Animation because we're figuring, like, okay, the 90s are probably way down at the end, but maybe we'll find a sign over here because some of the movies at Art of Animation were released in the 90s. We get to the end and we see like 1999 or something like that. We're like, oh, we're getting close, we're getting close. And then the sidewalk is under construction.
The sidewalk is closed.
And in my head, I thought, that's weird because we've seen the MouseAdventure people today, and if there's a problem, they usually say something.
Yeah, and they did not say anything.
They did not say anything. So we ended up having to...
another hint was that we didn't see any other teams at the 1995 sign.
Yes. But my thought on that was like, we're really pushing the time limits here. Like, we're not going to make it. So anyways, we end up like walking through the parking lot to get around the sidewalk that's closed. And you and Dad had to walk through the bushes to see the sign.
We sure did.
Oh gosh. And so we got the word thinking that, yes, we did it. Oh my gosh, no, I have to get back.
And the whole way back to the Skyliner, because I can't write it down while I'm walking, I'm just repeating to myself, stocks, 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 stocks.
And so we're not running, but we are power walking. Yeah. We are hustling back to the Skyliner because we've only got 20 minutes to turn in at this point. And we still have to get on the Skyliner, get off at Caribbean, and get to the quick service restaurant, which, by the way, we don't really know where it is because only I have stayed at Caribbean, and it was during Skyliner construction and while the resort was being remodeled. So the quick service restaurant wasn't even open then. So it was in a tent, literally a tent. So yeah, we approach the Skyliner station. We see another scooter there and we're like, oh no, we're screwed. But thankfully she wasn't getting on. It was just us right at the front. They got us on and we get off at Caribbean, and we are like reading the map and hustling over there. We found a couple other teams walking that way, and we made it with like 5 minutes to spare, basically. Yeah. And then we realized after talking to other teams while we were waiting for the second half of the game that we screwed up. Yep. You know, it happens. We've made mistakes like that before, and that's why our team name is Goof. There it is.
Because as our shirts say, we don't always goof, but when we do, there it is.
There it is. Yeah. So that's just a sample quest, and that was a hard quest. I think
it was so hard.
It wasn't that it was mentally hard. It was a lot of like running around.
It was time consuming.
It was time consuming, and the grid was not that difficult to solve. It was just like a lot of thinking.
It was hard to keep track of what symbol was what number. And I think if I had had the time to write out like what the numbers were, it would have been easier. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really have the time. It was just go, 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 go. So.
Yeah, so this one's an example of where cutting corners and not getting every single thing filled out can screw you over because we messed it up. But we did have an instance where we lucked out and we didn't have all the information. Something was a little off, but we still got the correct answer. That was the movie poster one with the double letters.
Right. my brain had already moved to Hollywood Studios, and this was still a morning one. So this
Yeah.
one took place at the Riviera Resort. There are a whole bunch of movie posters that are in foreign language. So what we had to do was there was a very small image from the movie poster, and we had to find what word had double letter in it and what that double letter was. If it had multiple words with double letters, it gave us the length of the word so that we could help determine what it was. So from there, it's more letter math. So it basically, for this one, we figured out the letter and we had to follow the colored dashed line. And along that line, it would say +7, and then it would say -5, and then it would say +9. And that was how we would get the final letter, which corresponded to a colored guitar.
And while you guys were working on this, like, I had no idea what you were doing except looking for double letters. So I was feeding you double letter information. Mom and I were working on trivia, and we also had a different quest we were working on with pictures of Walt Disney, and we were working on the puzzle portion of that. Mm-hmm. So this is, to be successful at this game, you really have to time manage things and take those few minutes to sit down and say, okay, this quest is here, but this quest is here too. So we can get information for this one while also trying to solve this one. And that's exactly what we did at Riviera.
Yeah.
So you get you end up, go ahead.
While you and Mom were looking at pictures of Walt Disney and figuring out the answers to those questions, I'm going on this dotted line because we have all of our letters. So I'm talking to Dad and I'm saying, okay, we're starting with L, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. And I gave him the directions to get me what our final letter was. So that's multitasking and teamwork.
Yeah. And we had to, like, the quest was telling us, find the movie poster with, like, this phrase on it or something like that, right?
Yeah. So what it was, each of those double letters translated to a different letter that was assigned to a colored guitar. And on the front side, there was a phrase that was blue guitar, green guitar, yellow guitar, orange guitar, red guitar, green guitar. So you just had to fill in the letters that were represented by each color guitar to get this phrase. And let me tell you, yellow and orange are really close to each other. And so are gray and brown. A colorblind person could not have completed this quest. I could barely complete this quest.
Yes. So, and our dad is colorblind, so we can say that with confidence. Anyways, you guys solved most of it, and you were looking at it going, like, this doesn't make sense. And I could see some words in there that, like, kind of looked like they went together, like some foreign language. So we're sitting outside the Riviera by the Bocce Ball Court by Primo Piatto, the little quick service. And we're, Mom's working on the quest that I had. She's also working on trivia. I'm doing a bathroom break and a snack break while you guys are working on your thing. You're helping Mom. And so I look at the words you have transcribed, and I'm realizing, like, kind of makes sense. And I said, oh, that's going to be on a movie poster. I turn around and look in the window, and there's the phrase we're looking for right there. And it wasn't like you guys didn't have it properly transcoded, but you had enough that there was no question what the answer was. Like, that was it. So that's kind of an instance where you don't need to have everything and it doesn't need to be perfect. But if you can get it close enough where you can still solve the final answer with a decent amount of confidence, then go ahead and solve it. So that worked in our favor. And that was just dumb luck that I happened to turn around and see it, because there were movie posters in like 3 or 4 different areas, and it would have taken us a while to go through each and every one to see, like, does this one work? Does that work? Does that work? So yeah, sometimes you just get lucky. Yeah. And that was like a positive goof, there it is moment.
Yes. So
we have positive and negative ones.
We don't always goof, but when we do, hey, there it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think for us, the first half of the day at the hotels and the Skyliner, that was kind of like a warm up, I felt, for us, because we weren't really on our A game yet. It had been a long time since we'd done a game in person, but I think we did okay. And then the second half in Hollywood Studios, that's where we really excelled, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And even doing the Disneyland quests, were always better in the parks than we were at the hotels or in downtown Disney. Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I noticed we did things kind of opposite from other teams in the park. There was a quest in Galaxy's Edge, a quest in Toy Story Land. There was supposed to be one in the Muppets area, but it was at Pizza Rizzo, but the top floor of the restaurant was closed for the day, so they canceled that quest. And then there were like two or three around like Echo Lake, Sunset Boulevard, and Hollywood Boulevard. So
mhm.
we started with Toy Story Land, then moved on to Galaxy's Edge because those two were the highest point quests, and we just wanted to like bag those points to get it done. And I didn't see anybody else working on Galaxy's Edge when we were there. And I only saw one other team working on Toy Story Land when
Mhm.
we were there. And then when we switched to the front half of the park, I hardly saw any teams.
Yeah.
So our strategy there kind of worked.
Yeah. And Toy Story Land was pretty crowded when we were back there. And I cannot imagine trying to do that quest with 20 other teams also trying to do that
Yeah.
quest at the same time.
Yeah, because we were going to I mean, Toy Story Land is always busy, but we were also going to like some crowded areas too that were
Yes.
a little tight. But you know what? We did it and we solved every quest in Hollywood Studios.
And the other thing that we haven't mentioned is that you are not allowed to separate from your team, exceptions being bathroom breaks and if a quest requires you to go on a ride that someone is unwilling or unable to go on. And the rules surrounding that is quests don't go to the bathroom. They don't have bladders, so it's impossible for them to go to the bathroom. And quests really like to ride rides.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so you're not sitting waiting for your party working on a quest.
Right. And you have to be really careful because you can't go in through an exit of an attraction. So if
Mhm.
there's something you need in the post show area, you have to go through the attraction. You can't get around
Yeah.
that. And then if you enter the queue for a ride, you have to ride the ride. You can't turn around and go. So if you have to
Yeah.
be if you think you need to ride a ride to get an answer, you need to be 100% confident. You can't be
Yeah.
like, well, maybe I need to ride it. So, yeah.
I'll say the sole exception to that is you're in line and the ride goes down.
Right. Yeah. So, Allie, what do you think was like the hardest part of this game and the easiest part? Because we've played this game for a long time, so but it's been a while, so I'm curious.
So for this one in particular, I think so mom and dad went and studied, but they didn't study at the right place. They didn't study at Riviera or Caribbean Beach. They studied at Pop Century and Art of Animation, and I was prepping for that. I watched The Lion King and The Little Mermaid because there are areas for those at Art of Animation. I went, all right, I'm gonna know these movies front and back. Didn't end up needing that. I learned how to solve a Rubik's Cube because they have those at Pop Century, and I thought, well, just in case. Now I just have a useless fidget information. So I think um, if we'd been better prepared, it might have been a little bit easier, but um, the morning was definitely the hardest part. It's the chaos of starting MouseAdventure, trying to figure out, okay, here's where I need to go. And then for me, I am hugely unfamiliar with any of the resorts that aren't All Stars.
Yeah.
So I had no idea where I was going, no idea what I was doing. I was pretty much along for the ride and to solve the puzzles.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So for me, the challenges of this one, the Skyliner is really like it takes a while. So
mhm.
that, especially with a scooter, so that was like kind of frustrating, I guess. And then there was one quest at Caribbean Beach. We didn't do the two Caribbean Beach requests. We ran out of time. So I think the hard part on that one was there was one that required you to get on the bus system and take like the internal Caribbean Beach is so big they have an internal bus system to take you from to different sections of the resort. So that
Okay.
one would have been hard too because with the scooter, like you're not, if there's two scooters in front of you, you'll have to wait for the next bus. Um, so I think that would have been difficult to get on and off the bus a gazillion times. So like the Hollywood Studios portion felt easy to me, but
hmm
the Skyliner portion because we're A, unfamiliar with the resorts, B, we're relying on transportation that's out of our control, and C, it's so spread out. Like, that was difficult.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about after the event and what we did afterwards. You want to share about that?
So once we turned in our quest, we had dinner reservations at the Hollywood Brown Derby.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there, drank a lot of water, and had a really great meal.
Yeah. My pork chop was like really good.
Yeah, I had the lamb and it was delicious.
And we were starving. We like wolfed down the bread basket. We ate we drank all our drinks. I cleaned my plate and then I helped Dad finish his plate.
The phrase that was going through my mind as we were eating was, we were eating like it's going out of style.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. And then after that, this was your only day in the parks on this trip. This was like a 2 or 3 day trip. It was a very quick trip for you. And so you wanted to do a couple rides. So we had purchased a lightning lane for Rise of the Resistance, which we would not normally do. But given that, we had a game that ended at a certain time, a dinner reservation at a certain time, and then there was a post-game event at a certain time. It's like, we need to be on this ride at this time with minimal waiting. So we had a lightning lane for that, but we had some time before the lightning lane. So we did Smuggler's Run, single rider.
And it worked out. Both as pilots sitting next to each other.
Yes. That really worked out. And then we did lightning lane, and they let us in like 10 minutes early for that, which was very nice of them. And then we had an Oga's Cantina reservation at like 8:20, I want to say.
No, it was later than that. It was like 8:40.
8:40, okay. And we got our drinks to go, and we hustled over to the post-game meetup, which was at 9:30 over at the boardwalk. We took the boat to Swan and Dolphin and then walked from there.
Yeah.
So that was good. And we found out we got first place out of the Masters team, so yay.
Yeah, and, I mean, there were only 2 Masters teams competing, but we still got first for the Masters. So, and based on what they said our score was, I think we got about 5th place overall. Are they posted yet?
They posted, and I looked at it on my mobile browser, but it wasn't formatting right, so I couldn't I couldn't see it. But anyways, okay. So if you want to play this game, where should these people go?
You should go to MouseAdventure.com.
Yes, and if you can't wait for the next event, if you click on the shop, when you get there, you'll see vacation packets. So you can play the games at the parks on your own time. And they've got Walt Disney World games, Disneyland games, and they even have a Walt Disney Family Museum game.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the San Francisco area, you're good.
If you're on the fence about trying MouseAdventure, get a vacation pack and you can get a sense for how the games are in a low stress environment. Or low pressure, I guess. It's still high stress, but it's low pressure.
Yes, and if you sign up for a future event, let us know, because we will be there for sure. Either volunteering or playing. We'll see. Yeah. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. We talked about, this is a coast-to-coast episode.
Yeah, it was. And it better, because we've been recording for over an hour.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
What are we talking about next time, Alli?
Next time, we are finally talking about Tower of Terror, Guardians of the Galaxy Tower of Terror, and Cosmic Rewind.
And we have been teasing this for like 2 months now, so it's finally happening.
I swear, guys, it's actually finally happening this time.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you for joining us on this episode, talking about Alli's trip report and our MouseAdventure madness. If you sign up for MouseAdventure, let us know if you do. And if you have a trip that you went on and you want to share your thoughts, reach out to us. You can find us on Instagram at Park2Park with the number 2, or you can email us at park2parkpod@gmail.com, again with the number 2. And don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, leave us some stars, give us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And Alli, I did get some feedback from somebody. I don't remember who because it's been a while, but somebody messaged me or commented or something and said, like, we're her top 2 favorite, like one of her top 2 favorite podcasts.
Well, thank you, somebody. We appreciate that. You're one of my top 2 favorite listeners.
The other being me. I'm just kidding.
No, I was going to say the other being Mom. Hi, Mom.
She hasn't listened in a long time.
Rude. Mom.
Yeah.
What's up with that? You need to be more like this somebody who likes us a lot.
Yes.
That CJ can't remember the name of.
I'm sorry, it's been a while. You can also find us on YouTube if you want to see our pretty faces and let us know which one of us is prettier.
Who has the cooler background. I actually have stuff in my background now. Most of it is not mine.
Yay! And Yay. I think that wraps it up for this episode then.
I think it do too.
All right, so we will see you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Bye!